Okay, can you hear me? Oh, all right. Throughout human history, but most especially in the last century, the economic opportunities and empowerment of women have undergone massive changes. So from early human societies, gender equality may be viewed as an evolutionary advantage as it fostered closer cooperation amongst individuals. Then, various theories emerged to claim that biological and social imperatives provide a compelling explanation for the rise of male dominance over time. Now, during the 70s, however, more women found themselves in occupations previously occupied by men. As a result of this, the labor force became less segregated. So while this was a development in the right direction, there were flashpoints revealed from trends that emerged in gender research focused particularly on women's issues. Indeed, there are several sobering issues that need to be addressed, but I have chosen to discuss two in particular that concern women in the workplace. So these are the glass ceiling and ageism. We're not on a time.
No.
Thank God. The last time I had to make a presentation, it was 7 minutes, and the timer was right in front of me. So it was very stressful. Thank you. Okay.
Let's fix the mic and go back.
Oh, galaw.
Be comfortable.
Oh, galaw ng galaw. Okay. Better?
You don't have to.
Okay. Thank you. So, I begin with defining what is the glass ceiling phenomena and ageism. Then, I shall discuss how women are experiencing these as barriers while still managing to contribute productively to the evolving socio-political landscape of the workplace. Last but not least, I offer suggestions for empowerment, focusing on women's participation and representation. Now, I respectfully ask you all, my gracious audience, to allow me to intersperse vignettes from my own life to use as multiple platforms with which to connect with the issues that I am presenting today. First of all, the glass ceiling. I came from a family that had become financially challenged during an economic crisis in this country. I entered university with much insecurity because I was not sure when the money would run out, and I would face the prospect of not finishing my education. So, I joined an accelerated honors program that would allow me to complete my degree in 3 instead of 4 years. So it wasn't just because I made the cut in terms of grade requirement, but I needed that time cut. After graduation, I was hired and developed by a number of mentors from this university, so that after barely a year of working here, I was told to take my master's. I was actually strongly coerced to take my master's. So the completion of this degree led to numerous appointments in administrative posts that were concurrent with teaching assignments. I was not earning much, but was allowed to augment my income through consultancies with various business organizations. Now, somewhere down the road, while I was being very busy, I realized that I had burnt out before even hitting 30 years old. I had also hit my first glass ceiling. What is a glass ceiling? The term glass ceiling was popularized in the 1980s and used to refer to barriers to women's upward mobility in organizations. Some authors explain that the glass refers to a transparent barrier that appeared invisible from the bottom when women started their careers, but like a glass ceiling, blocked and prevented them from climbing further up the corporate ladder. So glass ceiling effects can come from a number of situational, contextual, organizational, or even cultural factors. For instance, glass ceiling effects can come from a number of gender stereotypes, stemming from traditional gender roles that women perform domestic, meaning wifely and maternal duties, while men were expected to compete in the workplace as the breadwinners. This led to a number of researches that explored biases built on these expectations that have continued to support the glass ceiling. For instance, Hubler, Wayne, and Lemon found that both male as well as female managers in the United States considered women as less promotable, were poor performers with poor fit with their jobs and organizations. This perception comes from the view that women are traditionally caregivers and homemakers, thus were more likely to experience family work conflict than men, and so were viewed as less committed to their careers. Diba? Pag may sakit yung bata, uuwi yung mommy. May iwanan yung opisina. We've seen that, right? So, this is one of the stereotypes that's out there and heavily, used in terms of preventing women to move up. Furthermore, such biases have confirmed that what Vanderlee and Elmers found when they studied early career scientists in the Netherlands. So pay attention, junior faculty. This is actually the plight of your counterparts in the Netherlands. Their results revealed that gender bias favored male over female applicants in personal grant applications to obtain research funding. From the committee evaluations of the applicants to the language used in the instructions, as well as even the evaluation sheets, gender disparities were highly visible. So emphasis was placed on the quality of the researcher rather on the quality of the proposal, because the Dutch actually perceive leadership, a stereotype to be masculine. So this is a cultural thing with them. Consequently, many women remain underrepresented in academia, facing gaps in leadership and salary on top of funding opportunities. So we're not alone. Now, an interesting finding related to the glass ceiling metaphor comes from the comparative study made by Baxter and Wright. They used respondents from Australia, Sweden, and the United States. Strong evidence led to a conclusion that there is a statistically significant gender gap when it came to authority. Women were less likely than men to hold authority in the workplace. So when considering women at the top of an organization's hierarchy, no evidence was seen for a systematic glass ceiling effect, whether in the United States, and it was only weakly evident in Australia and Sweden. Instead, however, they found evidence of discrimination at middle and lower levels of management. So Morrison, White, and Van Velser support this trend in their research as they reported that women in large corporations in North America and Europe rarely made it to 10% of senior executives and 4% of CEOs and chairpersons. Indeed, while I was still in a middle management position, all of my immediate bosses, the ones I reported to, were all male. Now, near home, Sharif stated in her study that women lawyers in Malaysia outnumber their male counterparts. However, few made it to the top or senior positions. Hence, many chose to start their own businesses to become prime drivers of entrepreneurship in the country. This finding supports trends in the West that a lack of promotional opportunities in the corporate world had driven women to venture into business. Malaysian women professionals had successfully, therefore, transformed themselves into entrepreneurs, and the glass ceiling phenomenon was perceived as having had a positive effect in this case. So it pushed them, to become businesswomen. Just like my Malaysian sisters, I did not advance in position in almost 12 years. I worked with mostly males in senior positions, but I had set up little businesses along the way to augment my income. Now, in a study on Filipino women this time, in managerial as well as senior positions, stereotype influenced workplace discrimination led to slower rates of promotion, occupational segregation, and even discrimination in recruitment. This study from here, okay, just drove more painfully home, actually, the reality that I was stuck and overworked in the same job for almost 12 years with very little incentive. Furthermore, Santiago said that while Filipino women enjoyed advancement when compared to other women in the Asian region, they still experience discrimination in the workplace. They're subject to domestic violence and experience various economic disadvantages. In particular, the most common forms of gender-biased violence in the Philippines are domestic violence, which would not be limited to physical abuse and also rape. Now, sadly, I had been the victim of a random act of violence that happened in plain sight on a busy street filled with people too frightened to intervene. I was badly beaten by a man who was not only drunk but also high from drugs. I sustained injuries, with the worst being that my forehead was gouged out, and I remember that experience to be filled with men. The person who attacked and hurt me was a man. The doctor in the emergency room who was stitching up my face was male. The police on the scene were all male. Then when I went to court for this assault case, the judge, the lawyer, and court staff were all male. Okay. While I am grateful to the men who helped me at the time, I realized though that the glass ceiling wasn't just about my seemingly dead-end job and having mostly male bosses. I could also see that occupational segregation was evident in this situation, just as previously mentioned in the study of Chua et al. Of Filipino employees from multinational local organizations in the Philippines. She and her colleagues reported that women were overrepresented in administrative support and service occupations while being underrepresented in managerial positions. So glass ceiling gender disadvantages also became stronger at the top of the hierarchy as opposed to lower levels. So employed women still bore the primary responsibility of hours of work and childcare. They also shoulder a double workload compared with unemployed men and receive fewer rewards. Okay, let me go on to the second problem. Oh boy. Ayaw mag-respond. Ayaw mag-respond. Okay, just the first lang, just to guide you, no? So I'm done with the glass ceiling. I moved now to gender and ageism. Okay. In my early 40s, while attending the university's annual Christmas party for faculty, a male colleague told me that his junior faculty was surprised to find out that we were friends. He went on to remark that they told him I must have been really pretty when I was young. This is exactly what Jarican said, that while women gained greater self-confidence with age, they were unfortunately perceived as old early. Sometimes when they are just over 40 years old. I was about 40, 42 around that time when they said I must have been pretty when I was young. Okay? So while workforce demographics showed that women in the workplace is on the rise, with 61% of women, for instance, in the United States working, and nearly 80% of that population falling within the 25 to 54 age range, women are still retired early, if not eased out in a culture that labeled beauty as youth. Okay? So beauty and youth always go together. So what is ageism? Prejudicial attitudes toward the aging process and institutional practices that perpetuate stereotypes about older workers have led to a number of definitions. One of the most insightful and comprehensive is from Cadiz, Paitlovani, and Truxillo, who theorized that workplace ageism manifests from cognitive age stereotypes, so what we think, affective age-related prejudice, so it's emotional, and behavioral components, which are the actual age discrimination itself. So age-related stereotypes actually influence how workplace decisions are made. Age-related prejudice supports that older workers are generally viewed more negatively than younger workers, which result in lower performance appraisals. Harsher consequences also are given for lower performance. So it's actually even expected. Now, age discrimination identified that older workers struggle to find employment, receive training and development opportunities, and advancing their careers. So in effect, evidence supports the claim that workplace ageism has wide-ranging effects on individuals, groups, teams, organizations, and even society. So, a number of stereotypes revolve around older women not being motivated enough to learn new skills, are less physically and mentally active, as well as possess lower qualifications that prevent them from advancing in their career. Markovic explored these perceptions of people aged 55 onwards from the European Union states. And she actually found that numerous stereotypes suggest that older workers are less motivated in learning new skills, exactly what was mentioned earlier, are less physically active and mentally prepared to respond to the demands of their jobs, with low level of qualifications, and they're prevented from advancing their careers or getting a job because of them. Well, I beg to differ. A number of us women here have doctorate degrees. Quite a number of us got them when we were relatively young. Then, a lot of us are active in various positions, both on the national and international scene. So you can't say we're lowly in our motivation. Neither can you say we were deprived of access to training and development modules. And of course, the young people present here today are full of ambition and driven. So I know quite a lot of you have been angling for various scholarships and grants. You just got one. So, and some of the grants are very competitive. Some of you have returned from grants. So, what were they saying? That we're lowly motivated, no? We have a distinguished guest in the person of Dr. Morada. She's retired from Meralco and Salle. But, do we all know where she is right now? Hey guys, especially those of you taking tests. The national examination for counseling. She's one of the people who review your papers. She's far from being retired. Yes? She leads a very, very active life. And guys, you gotta hand her a medal. Even at her age, she commutes, which is a very brave thing to do on the streets of Manila, right? So, it's okay. Let me not stop there. Older women in the workplace include Hillary Clinton, who at 68 is running for the presidency of the United States. Previously, she served as Secretary of State and United States Senator from New York. She graduated from Wellesley College and Yale Law School. Another person is Sheryl Sandberg. She turns 47 years old this year, and she is Facebook's CEO. She graduated with not just an AB but also an MBA from Harvard and worked previously with McKinsey, as well as the Office of the United States Secretary of the Treasury. Anna Wintour, the fashionistas here should recognize this name, is the British editor-in-chief of American Vogue. It is a position she has held since 1988. That's a long time to be in that position. Remember The Devil Wears Prada? That has expanded to include that of artistic director of Condé Nast, Vogue's publisher. She will be 67 years old this year and continues to be a major force in the fashion world for her ability to eye fashion trends. She's also a philanthropist for various causes, including AIDS charities. Last but not least, I would like to mention the founder of Chuchi, who turned 79 years old this May. Dharma Master Xiang Yun started the Buddhist Compassion Relief Chuchi Foundation in her 20s. From its very humble beginnings, it is today an international humanitarian organization and a non-governmental organization with an international network of volunteers and employees that has been awarded a special consultative status at the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Not bad for an NGO. I wonder how many, are given this status. So, it brings me now to the last part of my talk, empowerment and women's participation and representation. Empowerment is not shown in the blatant use of power in the corporate boardroom. Neither is it shown in government offices and trade union negotiations. It is more significantly demonstrated and made manifest in the participation and representation of women all over the world in the workplace. We do not all have to be Hillary Clinton or Xiang Yun, but each one of us can work towards achieving professional success but also attaining economic security. We can also be more alert and responsive rather than reactive to the problems we encounter in the workplace, negotiating and working towards success just as the great Gandhi did. We actively engage women to enter the halls of government as legislators, convener, lobbyists, and philanthropists, to be part of a process that institutes laws that would not only increase the participation of women across professions, but lead to their greater protection. So women's participation and representation in the workforce need to be addressed by both the public and private sectors. And here are some major points to consider. That's the first one. Yeah. That's the second one actually. Yep, thank you. So promote the systematic integration of women's rights into national policies on opportunities for work with particular attention to issues that revolve around the glass ceiling and ageism. So occupational segregation is slowly diminishing, but it still remains a problem that needs to be addressed. Just as Van der Lee and Elmers observed in their study of the Dutch scientists, the quality of the research proposal was not an issue, clearly showing that women were not less skilled than their male counterparts. Furthermore, women have been repeatedly barred from entry into certain professions and positions within organizations because of various stereotypes mentioned earlier. Now, women have demonstrated repeatedly over time that they matter. In fact, since 2007, McKinsey has been pursuing and pushing for the increase in the number of women in senior management positions. So while their moves and their researches have largely focused on the West and how women contribute to corporate performance as well as what workable strategies are being implemented by companies to address this initiative, it has since expanded to Asia. So they've been looking at women in this part of the world now. In the Philippines, a Magna Carta of Women, Republic Act number 9710, was established in March 2010. The document defines what is discrimination against women and spells out the rights of women guaranteed by this document. While this is a very concrete output, much still remains to be done. As they say, the devil is in the details. Our department will have to develop programs in this direction because of this RA. 2. Advocate for and support initiatives on family education to focus on the development of female children, especially in areas where there is little or no recognition of their value. Families should develop not just their male, but also their female children. The home is an ideal training ground for the cultivation of a strong work ethic. From helping out with household chores to caring for younger siblings, older family members, and even family pets, the building blocks of responsibility, accountability, and accomplishment are formed. Then values of industriousness and perseverance are ingrained also in the experience. Finally, the girls grow into women who then continue on to join the family business, while others would start their own enterprises. Here is proof in a study of athletes in international sports competitions. Researchers actually found that after controlling for potential third variables, yung mga national gross domestic product, population size, geographic latitude, and even income inequality, they found that higher levels of gender equality in a country predict significantly greater success at winning Olympic medals for both male and female athletes. So, gender equality, therefore, is a win-win, allowing members of both genders to realize their true potential. Do you still remember the Filipina who won the gold medal in, I think, weightlifting, right? Silver. You know what she was doing for her family here? Nag-iigib ng tubig. Parang weights, di ba? So, nag-iigib siya ng tubig. So, her strength was actually developed over years. Okay? And our own faculty actually trained her how to speak English. Okay? You should talk to Christy Rodriguez. She has a lot of stories about this kid because she worked with the kid. Okay? Alright. So, this is fantastic. Alright. On another hopeful note, a study on women directors on the boards of listed firms in China and India revealed that Chinese family-controlled firms have a higher proportion of women at their boardroom table, who also enjoy great economic participation and available opportunities. Studies from Malaysia and the Philippines, on the other hand, clearly show a rise in female entrepreneurs. Guys, the head of the LSM group of companies is Tessie, the daughter, okay, of Henry C. The head of the Yuchengco group of companies is Helen, the daughter of Alfonso Yuchengco. We have quite a number of women out there. Robina Gokongwei heads some of the major divisions of her father's conglomerate. And her younger sisters, the twins, including one of the younger girls, are also heading the magazines and the marketing arms of the conglomerate. So women are beginning, to really show themselves out there in the family businesses. Third, stimulate public and private investment in educational facilities and infrastructure for women. Education is obviously a variable in the empowerment of women. Peter Drucker once said, "Today, knowledge has power. It controls access to opportunity and advancement." So a good education not only allows women to enter the workforce better trained, but this in turn leads to better paying jobs, okay, and a lot of other benefits that come. Education is also the vehicle that allows women to depart from the stereotypical roles often foisted on them. Full-time housewife, helper, sales lady, and even the soul-destroying title of prostitute. So, we work towards boosting investments in education for women by increasing the budgets apportioned to public education and embarking on a more aggressive solicitation of endowments also for private education. Fourth, enhance cooperation between all relevant stakeholders to strengthen country capacity for the participation and representation of women in the workplace. So the public and private sectors both recruit and employ women. Recent studies in the area have shown positive trends. For instance, data from a study of women executives in state governments in the United States indicated that both male and female executives were becoming similar in terms of educational levels, types of graduate degrees, hours worked per week, the mix of administrative and policy functions, including salary levels. So this is good. More recently, a study made by the ADB reported that the Philippines was the only country in the Asia-Pacific region that closed the gap for both the education and health survival sub-indices, particularly due to its high female literacy and enrollment rate, survival rate, and life expectancy. So ladies, we're living longer. Okay? In terms of women's economic advancement, the country also has the highest percentage of firms with female participation and ownership, just as I mentioned earlier, including a high number of women in legislation and in senior or managerial positions. So notably, for 16 of the last 50 years here, a female head of state has led the Philippines. So let's see what will happen in the United States in November, okay? They have not had a woman up there yet, okay? So grand. All right, so last but not least, improvements in women's labor force participation over the years have also contributed to the country's overall index score. Okay. I end my talk actually with what Simone de Beauvoir once said: one is not born a woman, one becomes one. Because right from birth and throughout her formative years, society forces a woman into place, a status, a role, and it is difficult to deviate from the pattern, as from the images and the values associated with it. Yes, women across different cultures of different ages and capabilities bring their traditions and values with them to all that they do. But I beg to disagree with her when I say that status and role did not limit women. In fact, women will continue to contribute to the world in many new and different ways. Campbell and Mingus Vera studied the relationship between gender diversity and firm financial performance in Spain, where recent legislation actually has pushed for gender equality. Panel data analysis led to findings that showed gender diversity to have a positive effect on firm value. So the study also suggests that investors in Spain do not penalize firms that increase female board membership, and that economic gains are generated by gender diversity. Also, Hearing sampled American profit-making work organizations for a study on diversity that considered race and gender as variables. In particular, he found that gender diversity is associated with increased sales revenue, more customers, and greater relative profits. So this process of including more diverse people into the workforce enhances an organization's creativity, problem solving, and performance. Thus, the argument that diversity is related to business success has been proven once more to be consistent. With that, my own personal dream is to see a 50% representation of women in boardrooms and in public office, most especially in policy and lawmaking bodies all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Lane.